Hi everyone, today our group will discuss the cases and give our group thinking. And this is our group's structure, and I will respond for the background to the approach. And now let's talk about the background. The Australia have a cost of living crisis, with the increase in food and grocery prices being one of the core factors contributing to the price on household. According to a survey by Felinda, the weekly expenses of an average Australian household are expected to increase by more than 12%. And furthermore, an organization found that the price of common food at Volvo's supermarket rose, while the price at Coles and Aldi either remain the same. This actually reflects the inconsistency in price trends. According to data from the ABS, the prices of food and have risen by around 3%. Among them, the prices of fruit and vegetables have increased by about 4.8%, and indicating that the price of the basic necessities are coming to rise. And the next part is about the problem identification. We will discuss into two parts. From the consumer perspective, the weekly expenses on grocery have become a significant source of the price on budget. There are significant differences in price among different supermarkets, which also increase consumer demand for transparency. For the market perspective, the Australian retail market is highly concentrated. This may affect the competitive dynamics and pricing power. Therefore, the core of the problem is in the conflict between consumers' perception of price fairness between market structure and supply side efficiency. Why this is a wicked problem? This problem involves multiple stakeholders, each with their own unique properties. Moreover, single solutions often fail to address the root cause of the problem. Therefore, this article considers this be a very wicked problem. And now, let's talk about our approach to develop the solution. To address this issue, we will adopt the integrative thinking approach, and we will talk about the two model. The first one is fixed price model. This model is from the perspectives of the government, discussing it in conjunction with the reasonable pricing control of the Australian government and the experience of the EU organization. Then, this section will be given for the government, consumers, suppliers, and retailers. And the second model is the home brand model. This model is from the perspective of product suppliers. By analyzing a home brand of large chain enterprises and the experience of consumer prices, and we will give the suggestion for consumers, retailers, government, and other entities. And finally, based on the conclusions for these two models, we will give our own solutions for these problems. And let's welcome the next part.
Hi everyone, in this stage I'll be presenting stage 1 of our integrative thinking process, where we articulate two opposing models that attempt to address cost of living pressures linked to supermarket pricing. These models represent two fundamentally different ways of thinking about how affordability should be achieved in highly concentrated grocery markets. The first model is a government-led regulatory approach, which includes mechanisms such as inflation-linked pricing benchmarks, stronger enforcement by the ACCC, and temporary price controls on essential goods. The second model is a market-driven approach centered on the expansion of supermarket home brand products as lower-price substitutes for national brands. It's important to emphasize that these are not just individual policies or strategies. Each represents a distinct logic for addressing affordability. Starting with Model 1, this approach is grounded in public interest theory, which argues that social equity should take precedence over unregulated market outcomes during periods of economic stress. In the context of supermarket pricing, this model assumes that oligopolistic market structures can lead to unfair pricing practices, particularly for essential goods. As a result, government intervention through regulation, enforcement, and temporary controls is viewed as necessary to protect the vulnerable consumers and restore fairness. In contrast, Model 2 reflects a market-based logic. Here, large retailers introduce home brand products in essential categories to provide consistently cheaper alternatives to national brands. This model assumes that affordability is best achieved through competition and substitution, rather than regulation. By offering lower-priced home brands, retailers indirectly display prices across the category, allowing consumers to reduce their overall grocery expenditure through choice. And what the pro analysis highlights is that both models generate real benefits, but for different stakeholders. The regulatory model prioritizes consumers' protection and fairness, particularly for vulnerable households, while the market-driven model prioritizes efficiency, flexibility, and sustained price competition. However, these benefits come with trade-offs. Each model delivers value by sacrificing something the other model seeks to protect. This tension between fairness and efficiency and between government control and market supply sets the foundation for the next stage of our integrative thinking process. Next, welcome my teammate to continue with the second stage.
Thanks for my teammates here and Jai to identify the two models. Next, I'll examine the models. From the causal relationships of pricing, fixed price model limits the price adjustment space of retailers by setting price caps on specific necessities. This approach can reduce the price increase of controlled goods in short term. Research on supermarket goods in Argentina supports this idea. During the period when the policy is in effect, the price of controlled goods is significantly lower than that of uncontrolled goods. In terms of home brand models, it reduces brand promotion and marketing expenditure, keeping the unit cost consistently lower than that of national brands over the long term. The higher the proportion of home brand in the category, the lower the average payment price of consumers. When consumers gradually regard home brand as the regular choice, national brand faces stronger substitution pressure, and its pricing space shrinks. After understanding how prices are formed, let's compare the similarities and differences between the two models. Although the operating mechanisms are different, both models reduce actual expenditure on necessities of consumers. Also, both of them set price anchor in necessities market. The differences are reflected in the governance patterns and their impact on players. Fixed price model emphasizes external rules and enforcement, and its advantage lies in reducing the information risk brought about by misleading price and complex promotions. Home brand model directly reduces the checkout price for consumers while strengthening the dominance of retailers in pricing and purchasing. Overall, the most worthwhile gains to retain do not entirely come from a single model. Fixed price provides the stability and predictability of prices. The home brand model offers long-term low prices that do not rely on continuous government intervention, and its advantages are based on cost structure and market competition. However, there are tensions between the two models. There are conflicts between external pricing rules and retailers' independent pricing, trade-off between directly safeguarding vulnerable groups and reducing overall prices through efficiency, and strengthening supervision and a retailer-led purchase system are difficult to expand at the same time. To deal with tensions, according to the ABARES, the proportion of expected returns of small and medium-sized agricultural suppliers in retail prices can be increased through institutional arrangements. Large retailers provide small and medium-sized farmers with more stable income expectations through long-term supply contracts, and home brand partnerships enabling retailers to control home brand cost in the large-scale purchase. However, the practices cannot completely eliminate tensions. Also, the assumptions of the two models do not always true in reality. For instance, the government may misjudge essential goods or set prices too low, or the quality of home brand may fail to meet consumers' expectations. These are all common situations in reality. Once these conditions are not met, the corresponding price results and distribution effects may be different from expectations. This also shows that the existing models are difficult to meet the requirement. Further exploration of new combination methods is needed. Next, welcome my teammate Ru Yanwei to explore the possibilities of a new model.
Based on the analysis of two models by my team member Li Tong, we found it is impossible to obtain an ideal method through simple supposition. Therefore, we entered the third stage, aiming to explore new possibilities through three innovative paths as follows. Further, we pay attention to the hidden gene pathway. We get each gene from Model 1 and Model 2. For the Model 1, it sets an open and transparent reference price increasing ceiling. For the Model 2, retailers rely on the structured low-cost cooperation capabilities. So we can sketch the first new model, which includes three paths: set the reference standard, retailer commitment and innovation, and transparent and reputation incentives. Secondly, we go to the next part, intensification pathway. We choose the Model 2 to be enhanced to get expected core income of Model 1, short-term price stability and predictability, and it is our strengthening plan. After that, we get a new causal link, which is similar to the price stability pursued by Model 1. Having known this, we can sketch the second new model. The regulated market and unregulated market are linked through the same retailer operational platform. Thirdly is the term of decomposition pathway. We put forward two new core assumptions, and according to the assumptions, we let the new articulation of the problem as two distinctive parts. Through the decomposition of the problem, we can sketch the third new model. For question 1, we fully apply the logic of Model 1, while for question 2, we not only fully apply the logic of Model 2, but also strengthen it. Here's the information we got. After exploring about three paths, we believe that the third path is the most potential, and we have chosen it as the possibility of in-depth prototype testing. So before that, let's say we need to define the possibility. The core concept is stratified governance. Let me give you an example to understand more clearly. Now, government launched a two-track initiative. In the first track, the welfare department cooperated with supermarkets and food brands to open electronic welfare accounts for recipient families. When purchasing basic nutritional food, it can be settled according to the price of 2023, and the price difference is subsidized by the government to merchants. In the second, the Ministry of Finance and Competition regulators encourage the expansion of chain supermarkets and assist the local manufacturers to become their home brand suppliers through tax incentives and policy support, which is clearly to understand with the figure. The result of the story is that the purchased family get a certain food security, while the mainstream market provides more priced options for all consumers in the fair competition. That's all for my part. More information will be introduced by my team member Azer.
Thanks to our team member for developing and selecting the two-track governance model in Stage 3. Moving to Stage 4, it is important that we analyze the true critical conditions. Firstly, financial stability. In terms of track 1 price lock, it must be true that the government can afford to subsidize the price cap so it is sustainable to maintain a profit margin for retailers. Secondly, consumer acceptance. It must also be true that mainstream consumers have the mentality and truly believe that home brands are able to be a substitute for nation brands. Thirdly, supplier protection. In regard to the tension, it must be true that the retailer participation for the retailers to agree with the contracts, and the contracts must respect the benchmark for the farmers. These are some design tests, which consist of quick tests, small-scale tests, and definitive tests. In our next step, we will be prioritizing our tests. The first priority is the price lock margin sustainability test. This is considered the necessity if the 5.2% margin is not sustained within the government budget. Track 1 cannot be accomplished mathematically. The second priority is to conduct a blind test in a supermarket. Track 2 relies on the statistic that consumers are willing to switch brands to drive competition between home brands and national brands. And the third priority is the regional safety net. This is because it is a test of our integrated solution, and it combines the financial stability and the logistics of Track 1 in a real-world setting. So now we will be tracking our test. We've chosen the price lock margin test for Track 1. This is using RBA inflation data and ABS CPI data to calculate government's ability to subsidize the essential products gap to maintain a satisfactory net margin for retailers to make profit. And we have also created a pivot, so if Track 1 fails, it is necessary to narrow the scope on the essentials. For example, 5 less essentials instead of 10. This essentially reduces the total subsidy cost while providing vulnerable Australians. Secondly is the blind taste test, Track 2. blind taste test in the supermarket to compare the home brands to national brands to see if they can actually distinguish the quality. The condition that is being tested here is consumer acceptance, and it needs to be true that the consumers believe that the brands are high quality. We've also created a pivot so that if track 2 fails the blind test, we would opt to use different strategies on the home brand model, such as advertising specifically stating that they are made in the same factories and they are of the same grade. Finally, the Stage 4 testing plan ensures model is financially sound and socially accepted. Our solution essentially resolves the tension between retailer profitability and consumer affordability. Our 2-track model, through the lens of real and markets thinking, we have created testing plans and pivots to manage risk, and it serves as a diverse answer to our supermarket crisis.
Okay, thanks for your teammates. Here are the references which our groups use in our presentation. And that's all about our presentation. Thank you for listening.